Hello, I'm Len Metcalf from Len School, and we're here with Chris Bell, who's recently become one of my favourite wilderness photographers, um, mainly because of the stunning, beautiful colour work that I saw at the Wilderness Gallery in Cradle Mountain a few years ago. Absolutely stunning work. You on your website, Chris, you say that you're a committed conservationist and a keen naturalist, and that drives your work. Can you tell us about that?
I guess I'm like, and Peter used to say the same thing, that essentially we're a naturalist first and a photographer second, but I don't see how any person photographing nature couldn't be a conservationist, because you're immersed in it all the time, and you're in some respects you're at the coalface. I don't need scientists to tell us that we're in dire straits. I can see that myself by loss of wildlife and all the rest of it. And I suppose it's just a natural part of a life. I can't understand how people aren't conservationists, quite frankly, but my photography is just about trying to express what it is about nature that is magical, and that I need so much. If I lost my eyes, I'd probably put an end to my life straight away, because my eyes are everything. And I guess it's the same thing with nature. If I couldn't get access to nature, I'd be doomed. It's my whole life. I need it.
Yeah, and so is that active conservation? Is that about promoting that and educating other people into understanding of how important that is into our life and our spirituality and all those sort of things, or is it very much more like, this is who I am?
I guess it's a bit of both. I mean, I remember reading something that Elliot Porter wrote once, when he said that people said that he was a conservationist, and he got a little bit irked because he said, his photography was about conservation, but he said, no, my photography is about me. It's what I do. Conservation is a part of my life, but essentially I do these things for myself, and to a certain extent, I think probably we all do. We when we're looking at something and we look at a viewfinder and there it is, there's something magical, and we try and capture it, and we hope that when we show those images, that people will be inspired by them, or they'll be moved by them to the point where they may be life-changing. And I've always said that photography has made a huge difference in the United States through say, Elliot Porter and Ansel Adams's work. Those people made people aware of just how magical their country was. But I say that all the time, but I'm not even sure that it's true. I hope it's true, but I guess people are either tuned into the natural world or they're not. Because we're getting further and further away from nature, from the natural world, there's so many people that just don't know what it's about. And why would somebody photograph reeds, for God's sake, or bloody rocks? and Cartier-Bresson said that about Ansel Adams and Elliot Porter. And this is during the Second World War, and he said, the world is falling to pieces, and Ansel Adams and Elliot Porter are out there taking pictures of rocks. But in many respects, they're a long way ahead of their time, because what they were trying to say is, without the natural world, you won't even have a life.
That's right, very much so. I really love that saying. For me, I think about, am I preaching to the converted or not? And I often feel that way. The people that love my work are already conservationists. Yeah. I think I spent a long time in my life being an environmental educator and not pursuing photography, because I actually actively wanted to go and tell people and shake them and go, you need to do something about what's going on environmentally. And having done that for 20 years, I now can go, okay, well, I've tried as hard as I can of shaking people. Yeah. Now I'm just going to go and enjoy it and take really beautiful photos and hope that they have a bit of a talk.
Sure. Yeah.
So we're here in Fern Tree. I think there's a whole lot of photographers choose where they live based on access to natural environments and to because of the light that they're here. You know, what actually brought you to fern treeing?
Well, I came to Tasmania for the Lake Pettit dispute, and I remember hearing about it on the news up there, and I thought, geez, I'll have to come down there and do something about it, and so I did. So that's what drew me down here, and then as soon as I got here, I did a little bit about Tasmania. There was some amazing places, but when I got down here, I realised just how magical the place was, and I don't like heat, so I guess that was one of the things about Fern Tree. But you know, you're surrounded by forest and stuff like that. We've got paddy melons and potteroos in our backyard, and all that sort of stuff. So it's just lovely to be so close to it, and it's quiet. We don't realise how noisy a world we live in, and in fact, you're hearing people who are trying to record bird calls and frogs and all that sort of stuff saying the same thing, that it's almost impossible to go somewhere now where there's not, you know, car noise distant or whatever. And that's one thing about here. You can some nights you can just hear a pin drop. It's just so that's one of the great things about here.
And it's a stunning location visually too. So there's very little visual pollution as well.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Do you photograph just around the local area in Mount Wellington? And
Look, I do, but my passion has been the more remote areas because I love wilderness and I love the concept of wilderness, and and that's where some of the most stunning vegetation is. But yeah, I certainly do, and the last snowfall was an example where I saw things I thought, I've never seen this before. So that's one of the wonderful things about living here too. Yeah.
Would you call yourself a wilderness photographer, or because you were just using that word?
I think I'm a nature photographer, I guess, and wilderness photographer in Tasmania is now starting to have some negative connotations for a lot of people. In fact, I'm doing another book at the moment, taking some of this crap on, because there's a lot of people out there that say that wilderness doesn't exist, and that's one of the reasons I'm trying to write this thing, to say that, well, it does exist. It is real. It's a real place, and we've got to have to make sure that we don't lose any more of it. But I not all the things I photograph are wilderness, so I think I'm nature photographer, I guess.
So what is is wilderness to you then?
Wilderness is an area that is, I can give you my exact quote, it's an area that's a natural area that's remote from modern man, and where you can feel that you're the first person there, that you're the first person looking at it, and I can give you my exact definition if you like later. But so and irrespective of the fact that some of the places we call wilderness have been changed by Aboriginal people and all that sort of stuff, but there's certainly areas that haven't, and but I'm interested in both those.
So some definitions include self-supporting as part of that, isn't it? That there's the land, the area mass is big enough that the ecosystem can totally survive by itself. Yeah, I totally understand that, and I find personally my best photos are the further I get away from people and the beaten track, the path most trodden, the better my photos are.
Okay.
And it's a direct relationship for me personally.
It used to be that way with me, but I when we were in Sweden the first time, we were taken down to Skallagård National Park, and there's a beech forest, and I got some reasonable material out of that because I just related to it straight away, and I just and so I don't think necessarily you have to be really attuned to a place and spend a long time there. You just have to be in love with what's surrounding it, and certainly the more time you spend in an area, you become more accustomed to, you know, the idiosyncrasies, where things are, where the light's coming from, all those sorts of things. But it was a bit of an eye-opener for me being there.
So do you find there's certain landscapes that you connect with quicker, or more spiritually with, maybe, and then others? Or are you just talking about how you connected with that one very instantly?
It's interesting, because I can go to an area that you look at first up and you think, there's not much here. But if you just spend a little bit of time there, things start popping out of the woodwork, and you think, oh, that's okay, I might get that. And then, oh my God, there's something over here. And I've got a few of those places where I went to originally and thought, oh, there's nothing amazing happening here. And a lot of photographers probably just walk through it and walk away. But I've devoted myself to spending a fair bit of time there, and when you do that, it's just alive with things. And so that's about, when you know a place intimately, that's what it can deliver. But and I like environments that seemingly don't offer anything. One, because you don't get a lot of people there, but I think you can apply. You have to apply yourself a lot more. You have to be a lot more sharper at what you're doing, and to in order to bring back something home that's meaningful.
And it forces you to be creative too.
Absolutely,
doesn't it? Very much so.
And that's the thing about going, when people go to spectacular places like the Himalaya. I had a friend once who said to me, "Oh, Chris, you don't even have to be a good photographer in England. You can just turn around and you take a picture and you just get a masterpiece," but you don't. No, and it's very few masterpieces I've seen of the Himalaya, actually, simply because people are overwhelmed by it and they're not spending time really engaging with it to get something meaningful from it. Yeah.
So this brings us to beauty, and somewhere I've read in some of your writing, you say it's to present it as a worth in itself. And so you're obviously in this search for beauty. What is it that, how do you know when you find it, what is that beauty that you're searching for?
I think beauty, surrounds us all the time. I think John Ruskin said that beauty is not in the eye of the beholder, it's real. And it's partly true, but it's also a cultural construct, isn't it? And I've thought about it years ago, that there's a possibility that early people, like when we went to the Kimberley, we had to go down to this little dirt road to this Aboriginal community to get permission to get on this particular bit of land. And it's just going to take a long time to go through all this, isn't it? Anyway, and we had to get the permission, and he turned around to us when we got there and he said, "Yes, no, you can go there." And he said, it's good country. And he didn't say beautiful, he said it's good country. And what I think he meant was it's productive and it's important than spiritual, if that's the word you want to use. And it dawned on me later that maybe early peoples, Paleolithic peoples, didn't have a word for beauty. If you would have taken an Eskimo who's paddling around icebergs in Greenland and taken him to a polluted stream in New York at that stage in 1850 or whatever, he would have looked at it and thought, "My God, this is just really horrible." And once he's got that idea of ugliness, he might not invent the word, but then he'd go back and, by contrast, the place that he's in would be beautiful. And I'm wondering whether they even had a word for it, because it was just home to them. They just paddled around. It was good country. It was productive, but they may not have had a word for it. They've got 22 words for different types of snowflakes and all that sort of stuff. But you're wondering whether the idea of beauty is a real modern construct. I don't know, but whatever it is, it drives me. I'm passionate about it, and I think the Ruskin quote I was sort of thinking about, that if you could bring a child up isolated from society, isolated from education, and then all of a sudden you showed them a little blue wren bumping across. They mightn't have a word for it, but they'd experience joy by looking at it.
Yes.
There's no other word for it, is it? I mean, that's what you experience. And but beauty is a passion with me, and it is a worth in itself. I think it's I
often wonder if it's an emotional response, that we have a immense aha moment where we feel a sense of love or something like that's going on. So when that little bird comes across, it could even just be surprise and delight.
Yeah, absolutely,
and,
sure.
The little flash of blue colour, in some ways is very beautiful and catches our eye.
Yeah.
But in other ways, it's just a moment that's happened.
Sure.
And, as photographers, we have that choice of, do we actually do something with it?
Mm-hmm.
Do we sit and enjoy it?
Yeah.
Can we turn this into something that I'm willing to share with other people?
Yeah, sure.
It's very much a part of that as well.
Yeah.
So, tell me about your approach. Like, do you just wander around looking for these beautiful photos, or how do you actually work?
not sure I have a method. I just traverse where I am, where a piece of land, and I'm continually looking for things, and getting something from the place as well. And sometimes you don't find things, but it's just a joy to be out there. And sometimes I find that, gee, I'm not seeing anything here, I'm not getting anything, and then all of a sudden, it's a bit of a bark pattern or something, sort of kind of fairly benign, but I take a picture, then all of a sudden you turn around and there's something nice too, and then all of a sudden it's just all happening, and it's just taking over. So quite often I need to take a photo before I see anything, and the photo I can't be just kind of anything, but it can be a fairly ordinary picture. Then all of a sudden, for some reason, it just starts happening, and I'll start seeing things.
I have to agree with you. I found that as well, that when I feel like I'm blocked and I can't see anything,
right,
that first moment of taking one seems to be a key.
Yeah.
That then allows me to take the next one. And, they both might be crap photos, but then I start seeing more and more, and I relax, and I take more and more, and then the beautiful photos start to roll in. So when something captures your attention, do you work that?
Yeah, I do. Particularly if I know if I know something is a snapshot, I'll probably take a snapshot. Yeah. Well, no, that's not cool. I mean, I do apply myself, even if it's just ordinary, and I know it's going to be ordinary. I'll still make sure it's as good as I can get. But when I see something and I think, oh yes, this is pretty special, and then I devote myself to it, and it's absolutely crucial I nail it, because it is easy to, even with digital, and it doesn't matter whether you film, digital, anything, it's easy to ball things up, and you walk away later and you think, my God, that's not in focus. Something stupid like that. I do. When you find something and the spark is there, then you really come alive, and you know you've got to nail it because it's something special. Yeah. And
when do you actually stop? How do you know when you have nailed it or it's time to move on? Does it run out, or do you end up with the final photo?
I think I think okay, and I don't just take one photo. I might take quite a few just in case I have made a balls up on exposure or focusing or whatever, and so I'll do some things a number of times, particularly panoramas. When I do a bit of stitching, I might do 6 attempts at that just to make sure that everything's going to work. But yeah, once I know I've nailed it, then that's okay. I can move on.
I have noticed, and I read this in I think it's David Hearn's book on photography. When I do a series like that, and I'm visually exploring different compositions, different focal points, I'll be playing with the f-stop, the depth of field, maybe the length of exposure. If it's a moving creek, maybe the water flowing through or something like that. That it's often the first photo or the last photo is the one that I've nailed. And I find that fascinating. I either get it right straight up, and then I spend the rest of the time trying to improve, and I can't. Or I start to discover something, and then through exploring it, I actually finally get to an end answer. Do you have that?
I think it's probably the same with most of us, actually.
Looking at your work, and you've mentioned Elliot Porter already, and I'm particularly interested in Nature's Chaos book, and there seems to be a relationship with your work, with his work in that sense, that you really love finding the abstract in nature.
I think that works best for me. I mean, I've done the, lake in the foreground, mountain in the background sort of thing, and it's still okay. And if people do it well, I can still appreciate it. But I think it's more those semi-abstract things that are slightly suggestive, or they may not be suggestive, but they're abstract, and that's where I do really like that, and I like the chaos thing. I know when Hans came out to Tasmania, and he brought a friend, Jan, and we went to Pandowning Shelf on Mount Anne, and it's about 3,000 feet, and then all the way out, we just talked about chaos. But it's ordered chaos. It's not just chaos, because if it was just chaos, all you need to do is close your eyes in the forest, turn around and just click the picture, and that doesn't work. It has to be... That chaos is wonderful, but it's about how you're ordering that too. Because we are ordered people, aren't we? We're trying to order things, but we like to see that mess too. And Australia's vegetation's messy. If you go to Europe, it's just pine trees and all that sort of stuff. It's very lovely, but we've got a lot of mess here, and I like that mess. I quite often do that sort of mess, but I make sure it's... And I'm not sure people appreciate it. Oh, that's our thing. I've got pictures here that I'm really happy with, and I know no one will like. But it doesn't matter. It's for me, you know.
Yeah, well, I must. One of my favourite photos, no one likes. It's my favourite photo. And one day, someone knocked me over when they said they loved it. It really knocked me over. Yeah. Yes, very much so. So are you in that mess? Are you searching for patterns? Something that resonates with you, or are you playing with composition?
Yeah, it's just a compositional thing. It's making sure that the components work for a particular reason, and I see it and it works, and I'm thinking, yes, that works, and it's a very structural thing, and this is probably one of the reasons that a lot of that stuff I do works just as well in black and white, if not better in black and white, because and that's the great thing about black and white. There's no colour to seduce people or to lead them astray. They can't say, isn't that a beautiful glow on the rock or whatever. It's just about understanding why the photographer has put the bloody boulder on the right or whatever. It's a really structural, carefully thought out thing, and people should be able to see it because there's no colour to mislead them, if you like, I guess.
Yeah. And you're very much a printmaker, so you print your work out, you frame it, you exhibit it, and that is very much integral and part of your process.
Yeah, it is now, yeah.
And are you thinking about the print when you're taking the photo and the edges of the frame? And...
No. Basically, I'm just interested in capturing the moment, capturing what's in front of me to the point where I know it's as good as I can achieve, and then I'll worry about the printing later. It's just sort of it's not part of that thing. The only thing sometimes I see things. And I know it's going to be a black and white. I guess I visualised it, and it's definitely going to be a black and white, and so I do think about how it's going to look as a print. But normally I don't. No, it's not a.
Oh, okay. I have to clearly decide before I take the photo and even compose it whether it's going to be a black and white and colour. And I compose a colour photo quite differently, trying to balance the colours.
Yeah.
Whereas in a black and white, I'm playing with the tones and the lines.
Sure.
And, if I try to do both, I find that they fall flat.
Yeah, okay.
But interestingly, and I find that my colour work, when I convert it to black and white, is quite lovely.
Yeah, sure.
It's when I'm composing that there's extra bits in the colour one that I actually have to get right. In that balance of the colours that I can switch off when I do it with the black and white one.
Okay.
So the converse isn't true. So I can't convert my black and whites into colour and get really beautiful photos. I have to start thinking about the colour one from the beginning.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, okay.
That's really fascinating. So do you spend a huge amount of time when you come to printing and developing and processing your work?
Some images work very quickly.
They come together.
Yeah, it's pin sharp. Everything's done right. You almost have to not do anything to it at all, and other things are a little bit laborious. And sometimes because I'm just such a bloody fanatic on subtle colour and things like that. It's the subtlety that I get bogged down in, and which is a bit of a pain in the bum sometimes. Because it's a time waster. But it's just something, I guess I'm just a perfectionist that way, and I have to get it right, otherwise it's just not right. But some things, you can take it, look at it on the screen, bit of sharpening, print it out, and it's almost spot on to begin with. So they're probably fairly simple things too, that a simple range of tones, like that Reed's picture there, and where it's a much simple thing to output, I think.
And that's the way you like to work too, I suppose. That the ones that are really hard work don't seem to have the same payoff as the others.
No, a bit of a mixture. No, it's a bit of a mixture. Yeah. Okay. Sometimes I can spend a lot of time on something, and it's worth spending that time on it, because at the end of the day, and some pictures you have to spend a lot of time on anyway because there may be problems that you didn't see in the viewfinder.
That only show up on the print.
Yeah, there's a couple of hot spots and you've got to deal with them one way or another. And so,
Yeah, I had a print that I discarded doing an exhibition.
All right.
No, this is not good enough. Put it in there, throw it away.
Yeah.
And I was telling someone, they're like, no, Len, that's one of your better photos. Go back and try harder. And I had to spend a day and a half on it.
Yeah.
Really working, going right back to the beginning.
Right.
To finally pull off a print.
Yeah.
And put all that extra effort in to pull it back out again.
Okay. Right.
So, yeah. It works both ways, I think.
Mm.
Yeah, I think you're very true there. Now, before we started, we were talking about your books. You have quite a few books out, and as very much a passion for yourself, and even maybe more so than your prints, is it?
Yeah, I think so. And not that I'm interested in a legacy or anything like that. I'm not. It's just that I like the physical thing of a book. I really do, and I think the next thing I'm working on will be better than anything else that I've ever done. That's for sure. Because you learn as you go along, and you think, oh my God, why did I put that in? Or there are problems with printing which you won't have next time because you're a little bit more experienced and that sort of stuff. So the next things I'll do will be better than others.
What is it about a book that is fantastic for you, that drives you?
I don't know. Just this physical thing, and that's why people are saying, when tablets first came out and Sony readers and things like that, people were saying, oh, that's the end of books and all the rest of it. But people in the book industry are saying, well, it's actually coming back in, but books aren't dying at all. Sure, there's a lot of people using readers and Kindles and things like that, but there's still a huge amount of people just into books, the physical thing, and whether it's always going to be that way, who knows? I mean, brave is the person that can predict the future, that's for sure.
Well, the fine art book market's taking off.
Yeah, I think it will too. It'll be smaller.
Books are going wild.
Yeah,
really.
sure. And there's less booksellers and all the rest of it, so it's going to be harder to move books. But our books are probably going to have to be smaller runs and more expensive. And I think that if people like your work, whether it's yours or mine, and you want to have some sort of a stamp that people recognise, oh yes, I know that person's work, that's terrific to buy. Geez, $200 or whatever. Well, that might have to be the price of books in the future. You're right, but yeah.
And do you enjoy that process of putting them in an order so that people have to look through your work
I do. Yeah.
in a particular order?
Yeah, I do.
And you lead them on a bit of a journey that way?
Yeah.
And I notice you like to write, to add lots of words with them too. Particularly in the Tarkine book I was reading through, and there's some lovely words in there.
Oh, thanks very much. I do. It's not something that comes easy, but I like expressing myself, and it's another way of reaching people, I suppose, through the written word. But I'm not sure very many people. I mean, if you ask everybody who owns the Tarkine book how many of them have read it, there's probably 90% of them that haven't.
They get immersed by the photos.
But I guess I like expressing what it is that I can't capture in photos about the place. And
yes, because there's definitely an emotional sense of place in your writing that I can feel the wind, and this is what's happening here, and those sort of things. And it took me quite by surprise. Right. It's like it wasn't what I was expecting in there. I was sort of expecting a treatise on how we should conserve the place. In a sense that it was this romantic notion of how it affects you personally. And it was lovely to read, very nice, and went very well with those photos.
Thanks.
So just a few more things. And one of the things that I've struggled with is trying to find a work-life creative balance in my life. And have you managed to find that balance? And how do you do that?
have to ask Jenny to back me up here. I'm not sure. It's a struggle to sell stuff, isn't it? I mean, it really is. And the other thing is, I have to say, and I know Hans is exactly the same in Sweden, and probably most photographers are, who do books and things in particular, is the real thrill is putting them together.
Mm-hmm.
Once it's happened, you kind of... I don't like walking around to bookshops. I really don't. And you generally get good responses, and that's great. But I had a bad one in Sydney a long time ago with the first book, and I was distributing around. I went out to Parramatta. There was a bookshop out there, and I said, I'm just wondering whether you're interested in stocking this book. He looked at me and just threw it down the counter. He said, no. I said, oh, do you mind if I ask why? And he led across the counter real close, and he said, to be honest with you, mate, I don't think people in Parramatta give a stuff about Tasmania. Spoilt my whole day. That was it. It was just, probably the only bad response I've ever had. But just marketing books is horrible. Some people like it. I don't.
Yeah, and that, unfortunately, that's often one of the measures of success, isn't it? That the people that do make it actually are very, very good marketers and able to present themselves.
Some people
despite of the quality of their work.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, absolutely. And in fact,
there's often a whole lot of people that don't have those skills that do absolutely stunning work, and it doesn't get out into the world.
Yeah, absolutely. You're right there.
Yeah, it's a sad thing.
It is. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to pick on another little quote that I've pulled out from the web. This time I think it's from the Large Format blog.
Right.
You're writing about one of your photos, and you said in there, "Does the image sing? Will it still be viewed as a piece of art in 50 years' time?"
Right.
So I'm really interested in that notion. What makes a photo, a print, the final photograph sing for you?
Well, firstly, it's probably a personal thing for a start, because what I see... I mean, I've got a Peter Dobrovsky picture in there that Liz gave me after he died, and I think it's the best picture Peter ever did. And I've told that to a few people, and they sort of raise their eyebrows and think, oh, I don't think so. But, so it's a personal thing anyway, I guess. But Ansel Adams' Dogwood pictures up here. Mm-hmm. It's just, I think, a little masterpiece. It's just, I've always liked it.
Yes.
And
it's one of my favourites too.
Right, okay, yeah. And he's done some great things, but and there's just something, and some ordinary things too, I guess, like all of us. But the ones that will be still notable works of art in 100 years' time, I think it's pretty hard to nail down why that is so. Mm-hmm. But I just think that's how it is. It's going to be that way, or it isn't. And whether other people see that, I'm not really sure. Mm. Yeah. And you make these bold statements, and you think about it later, and you think you're not.
So, if we're holding one of your prints and it does sing to you right now, what is that? Have you figured that out? Have you?
I think just where everything comes together compositionally, and this slightly suggestive nature about some of the stuff that could be interpreted some other way, and I think the print as well, the actual physical print, depending on what medium you're using, with the matter and stuff like that. So I guess you just know. Like, when we went around 2/3 of Australia in 2001, I think it was, and we revisited a few places and redid a couple of things but I worked it out in the end. I got about 49 brand new photos for 7 months' work, so it was about 7 a month. And when I looked at it at the end, they were all publishable, and yes. I'll probably use a fair bit of them. But probably only one or two really stood out as being really, really significant for me, and that really sung, I suppose. Yeah.
And does time have any relationship with that too? Like separating the taking from the decision making or the viewing?
I don't think so.
Not
no.
for you?
No.
Okay.
No.
I find that for me, that's one of the answers to whether it's a good photo.
Okay.
Is whether I still like it in a year's time.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
And also that separation from taking, and when I take a photo that I think is beautiful,
right,
often it isn't.
right.
And the ones that I'm relaxed and totally just enjoying taking photos, it's
Right.
similar to what you're saying. You're totally concentrating
Yeah.
on taking the photo.
Yeah.
You're not thinking about what sort of print it's going to be or
Yeah.
whatever. And I'm totally absorbed. I take the photo, I move on, I forget about it.
Right.
And later that one comes up and
Yeah.
it goes, oh,
Yeah.
that one really sings to me.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it sort of pops out of my work unexpectedly back
Yeah.
at me and goes,
Sure.
hey, here I am.
Yeah.
Here's this really,
it does
really,
happen.
really
Yeah.
beautiful photo.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you for that,
Okay.
Chris, and thanks for your time. And
No worries.
I really look forward to seeing more of your work into the future.
Thanks very much.
Okay.
Yeah, brilliant.